Hello everyone, welcome. Today is February 6th. Welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. So these are my trade recaps from my community, my trades that my community is taking, the traders are taking, any ideas that I share on Twitter or any ideas I'm sharing on in my community or I'm guiding them on the voice or in the trading floor. We are trying to recap what our winners, what our losers, what were the setups we played. We play repeatable setups every day. We do not take any random trades. Each play is something that we can repeat all over our trading career. So that's what we do every day. And we're trying to see and learn every day from all those setups. So how we can improve the next day and get better in our trades and learn something from each trade. Anyways, for those who are new, I wake up every day. My team is up a few hours before the market open. And we go through all the news sources. We go through all the news sources: pre-market news 1, pre-market news 2. We subscribe to a bunch of news sources just to go through what are the gap ups, what are the gap downs. We do a market summary, any big news, earnings, upgrades, downgrades, what is the macro happening, what's the geopolitical things happening around the world. So we look at everything. Then I create my news plays game plan. For the game plan for today was right here. Chinese names were on our game plan: DOCU, Sign, PLTR, Lily, Spot, among others were our main plays today on our news plays. You can see the news, you can see the support levels, the resistance levels, and the game plan. Support pivot and resistance pivots work in sync with my Ripster EMA cloud system that I teach everybody, and all of us trade that system in the community. You can trade as per your own analysis, your own system as well, because these resistance pivots and support pivots just give us a good bias of staying long or short on a particular trade. We always stay with the trend in our community. We never go with our trend. Our first thing is to identify the trend and then get an entry based upon that trend. So anyways, and then I also create more levels for my community, which are marketplace. What are marketplace? These are the plays dependent on market indices and which we play every day, like Apple, Microsoft, AMD, NVDA, Netflix, Boeing, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, AVGO, SMCI, Google. And you can see the support and resistance pivots, and there's how to play those using EMA clouds that's listed on my daily levels as well. Anyways, so that was today's level. You can pause them and see how they worked out. I'm going to discuss few of them. On a trend day, these levels work flawlessly. On a choppy day, these levels sometimes do not give us good trades. But anyways, we will discuss all those as well. So this was the introduction, guys. Now let's start with all of our plays. We have a lot of plays to discuss today. We had a couple of losers, but we have solid winners. Even there were solid winners for the small account people as well. So we are going to discuss all that. So let's start with our first play. So number one play today in the community was PLTR. You can see it was number one on our watch list today. So let's go back, look at the game plan for PLTR. So game plan was PLTR was, so first of all, the news, it beat analyst expectations and full year guidance came roughly in line. So overall, everybody was upgrading them. Support pivot was 1920 and resistance was 20 and 2185. So, and we were bullish neutral. So the plan was, the risk was 1920. Risk was 1920 and 20 was psychological level. 20 is always a big psychological level. If that breaks out, that pushes out, that's a long, and that's what happened. So let's see, look at my guidance. So we had initially how it's behaving, right? If we go on a 3-minute, we can see how it's behaving. The first candle was a red candle. So you wait and watch. When you see that first candle as a red candle, you wait and watch, because what is the second candle doing? Because you don't want to get swiped down. Of course you can buy that, but your risk is 1920. Understand that swipe candle can dip to 1920. So you have to understand that. But anyways, I saw the hammer. I was busy in the other trade at the open, but I saw the hammer, and that's when I told everybody it confirmed the long. When you see this hammer on 10-minute, that's when it confirmed the long to go long, right? If you were not long earlier, that's fine. You can always have a starter versus risking these clouds. As long as it's over the clouds, you can have a starter, that's fine. But then you see the confirmation and then you add more. So that's what I said, long confirmed, right? And when I said that long confirmed, at that time, I was on the voice, I was talking about the calls were 21 calls, right? They were trading around 50 and 50 cents, 50, 60 cents. And my first target I gave everybody was 21.82. I wanted the target was 21.85 because 21.85 was the level from this high. You can see this from the recent high was 21.85. So that's how you go back. You go to the zoom out, go to weekly and daily charts, see recent highs. That's always your first resistance, guys. So that's why you do it. So 21.82 was my first target. It was 21.85, 21.82. That's what it was. And I did put it out later. And we started to push. Our 21 calls started to push. They went from 40, 50, 60, 70 cents to $1.50. 100% trade within first half an hour. And we hit our first target, 21.85. So what happens after we hit our target? We take our profit and look at the pullback, right? So you take all the profit at 21.85 and then it reclaims, I was waiting for 34.50 ad, but then it reclaims the 512 EMA cloud. So then you can do that 512 EMA long setup, right? You can risk low of these candles and you can add there. Then came the news about a contract, a 300-400 million contract with PLTR, and I started scalping with that news as well. And then I gave, because everybody was still long, a lot of people were long after the 512 EMA reclaim, and I gave them the next target I gave them was 22.20. Now you ask me, how did I find 220 target? Again, no rocket sign. I went back, I looked at some of those candles, looked at those candles, and I figured out 22.20 was pretty close area for my target. And look at that, what was the high of the day? 22.18. 22.18. That's where we rejected again. So both my targets met. And even at the second time, the 21 calls again went from 60 cents to $1.40. Again 100% there on those 21 calls. So such a nice trade, guys. You can see all my guidance, defined risk reward, and 100% trade on the calls. If you were trading shares, a decent trade. It's on the watch for tomorrow as well. We will long it tomorrow as well, but this was the trade, number one trade in the community. Full guidance on the voice, guidance you can see here. Hopefully you learned something from this setup today. And it was trading 900% relative volume today, guys. That was 900% R vol, you can see top right there. All right, guys, the second trade we are going to look at is our Tesla trade. Let's go back, look at our levels from the pre-market. So our levels was 180 and support was 175. So guys, 180 was such a big level, such an important strong level on Tesla. That was 180, because you remember this was the level that held for a long time and then it broke out, broke down, and then they reclaimed it today again. So 180 was such a long level. But anyways, there was also this EMA cloud top resistance here. As soon as I saw the strength, and I was like, let's scalp it long. You can see here 934 I said long scalps versus 177 small size, right? So I defined risk was 177 and I saw it pulling over the clouds. That's what I liked, and that's what I told everybody. If I go to a smaller time frame, we can look at in a better time. So I saw this strength, right? Even if you're risking $2, that's fine, but that was the trade long. And once it broke out of 180, that's it. It was off to races. And then it was all about my targets. Let's just see our screenshot from the morning. So, and even Win came right after I came. Win also saw the strength. He also came and he gave his he gave his level of 178, and I gave a target of 180 to 60. Then I gave the target of 184.32, and which was yesterday's highs. And after that, I told everybody leave 1/3 of your position because it's flagging, and we hit over yesterday's high. We hit almost towards 186's in the yesterday pre-market resistance. So you can see that the time stamped guidance on Tesla, and once it broke 512, that's it. I was out of the last piece, but you can clearly see how Tesla worked out for us. I'm going to try to find some more there. So 185 calls on Tesla, they went 150%, and when I missed this 3450 midday ad. So this was a midday 3450 bounce ad. So that was the setup. But anyways, the main setup was in the morning, Tesla long, and the daily is looking nice now. Even the 1 hour is turning bullish. So again, Tesla will be on watch tomorrow. You see this kind of a hammer bullish candle. So over today's high, weekend long Tesla. So watch it tomorrow. All right, let's talk about AMD and NVIDIA, guys. So AMD, NVIDIA, AMD, I gave a short right at open. Why did I give it? Because I saw the 3450 EMA rejection. And we are always watching the semiconductors, right? We are always on top of it. Because we know semiconductors are hot right now. Up and down, we trade both sides. Anyways, I gave AMD short high of the day. If you want to go back, look at the pivots. You can see here, AMD pivots were 175 resistance, 174 resistance, 172 was a support. And I saw the resistance rejecting right here, and then once 172 area support break, it was bearish, it was short, and I was I was heavy short in it, and we faded it all the way from 172s all the way to 165s. And I was trading those 170 puts on AMD that I gave everybody. So on those 170 puts, let's look at that. Yeah, so 170 puts went from $2.70 to almost $6, right? So they went almost 400% trade there, 200%, sorry, depending upon your entry. Their low was 220s, and they hit on the first big push. They hit 100% for me. I had a little late entry. I averaged up, and then by the end of the day, they went over 150 and 200%. So you could see this AMD short. You could see the timestamps here on AMD. Let's look at NVIDIA as well. So NVIDIA, I was doing the same thing with AMD. I was short NVIDIA for the very same reason. You can see my timestamp guidance here all day on NVIDIA short. My targets I gave everybody were 673, then 665s, but it was still heavy. Let's see if I can show you guys. Come on. Yeah, so here you go. So here was, guys, NVIDIA short. Similarly to AMD, I was short NVIDIA as well, and I gave this NVIDIA short to everyone in the morning. That worked really nicely for us. I told do not exit as long as 512 doesn't break. I was giving the guidance all day. Even when this 512 was holding up, I told everybody there is no reason to exit this short, and then it breaks the bear flag and it flushes further. So this short on NVIDIA from the morning, let's go back and look at some pivots, right? So NVIDIA, the first pivot was 680, 700, 696, and then 684. So 700 broke down, clear risk reward, psychological level. Then 696 breaks down. The first target 684 meets, that breaks down. All the pivots break down. All you had to do was hold your short and trade your short for a huge win today, right? So that was AMD NVIDIA. Beautiful trades, such a good trade, stress-free, and big winners for us. Let's look at our SMCI. That short kind of didn't work because of the late entry. A lot of people lost on that because there was a late entry. So let's look at this 647, right? So when 647 of the day breaks, so adding the short here, and it swipes back, and you have to immediately take the loss and move on, right? If you miss the morning flush, Another thing to note is SMCI is a little thinner than NVDA and AMD, so you cannot size crazy size on it. And so somebody sized here, they were in the loss, but they made money. A lot of people lost in this squeeze, so this short trend, because I was also looking at this breakdown for more fade, but it came right back up, you know. So you have to make sure the losers stay small. You cannot keep holding till here. That's the problem. You get out when you do see this higher lows, right? That's your signal to get out. Anyways, it kind of worked for some people later in the day, but this was a loss here on this pre-market low break. AMD NVIDIA paid up much better and covered this loss. Spot was a long loser today. I was watching this breakout. I was watching this pre-market. I added some long, and then I also added the pullbacks, but then it broke 240, 240. So when it broke that 240, and that's when I was out, because I don't wait. If it's working, it's working. If it's supposed to work, it's supposed to go higher. You add some here over this high candle of the pre-market highs, and even though my stops were 240, it was pushing. It's a thin name, right? It was pushing. I was kind of green for a bit. It was pushing, but I wanted a bigger trend trade, and then it gave up. Then it gave up that 240, and then I got out, stopped out. But I told everyone B minus short, and since I told that, spot faded from 240 all day, bounced initially, tried to push lower highs, fading, breaking the pivots, clouds, all day fade to 229. So I told people that too. I told people if breaks 234, it can fade more, and it broke 234 and faded to 229, right? So that was the thing, and it was bearish. It was, I updated people later in the day as well. It's breaking clouds in the gap when it was breaking clouds. So you see how, if you were lose on the long side, you get out. Do not think twice, and you can make money on the short side, right? So so that was a winner on the short gap fill, but a loser on the long side. All right, let's look at MDGL now. All right, so MDGL had some news. It was a sympathy down on the Lilly Nash data. So I was first trying to short it, and when it popped, I saw the strength. I got out of the short. So I got out of the short, scratch loss, that's fine. Then I was trying to long it on the B minus. And when I tried to long that B minus, then it faked me out. And, it was not working. It was not working. It was still heavy. It was still heavy, still heavy, still heavy. So I was like, maybe the longs are not going to work now, reduce my size. But then again, it broke out of this flag. So that's what I said, giving back bullish, giving another short. I mean, I'm supposed to say short, S-H-O-T, not O-R-T. So my point was back bullish. So when it's curling back over the clouds, you see my price alerts are going in, and that it's back bullish, giving another short over 512 girl. And this time MDGL dipped a little. That's fine. Higher lows, that's okay. Still wants to go. And then I told everybody that it's going to push here. You see the price alert started to go in 1131, 191, and then it was pushing over to 3450. Then it went on to push to 203. And whatever losses I had, I covered that losses and much more in the final long, and now it's in the gap. So now it's in the gap. If you look at the daily chart, there is a small gap here to 213, but I'm swinging a little bit. We'll see what happens tomorrow, hoping that it can push more to 208. But you can clearly see it was a tough trade, but I don't hang around. I just want to see when it gives me a confirmation. So you can clearly see that it was showing you higher low right here, and then breaks out. And that's why specifically I said back bullish, right? There's a reason I say that, because I watch it. I don't just let the trade go, because I know there's a lot of opportunity. And look at it, longed 189, sold So some 195, rest, you know, swinging, hit 202. Look at that risk reward. If you risked $3-4 and you made $10-12, that's a good risk reward. So that was MDGL, guys, finally worked. All right, let's look at this FN, which was a play from the pre-market game plan. It had a bad earnings, bearish to neutral to short the pops. Support was 181, resistance was 196. Never popped, but break down under the pivot. Short all day. I told everybody it's a short from the morning, and then it faded. And it also gave you a nice reversal, 512 reversal later in the day for a lot of opportunities down and up all day. Let's look at Boeing now. So what was Boeing doing? So Boeing, guys, today, here you go. So Boeing was bullish. The pivots on the Boeing were 205, 207.40, 205, 207.40. Here it breaks the pivot. You know, I told everybody it's breaking the pivot. And then it dipped to the 512. You know, the pivot that it broke became new support. This is my repeatable setup that I teach everyone. Dip to 512s and then continue to push. I was on the voice. I talked about Boeing, how strong it is. And Boeing continued to push towards 211 for the day. From 207.50 pivots, you know, all the way to 2011. So Boeing was a nice, decent, long trade, less crowded. Maybe Boeing is coming close for a bigger push. We will keep an eye. It's been basing at 200, not giving up 200. So that is very impressive. So either, you know, let's see if it curls over these, you know, 12 and 20 EMAs, then it will be, you know, going back. We'll see. Let's look at Lilly, guys. So Lilly, it was last time we did good on Lilly. It was at all-time highs, but today I didn't take a long position because I did not like the candle. I told everybody on the voice that Lilly I do not like. I do not like the way it's doing it, and it's breaking 512. It's a B minus short, and I gave everybody the target 700 on the gap fill. And then I even told everybody if 700 not reclaimed, it is going to fade much more. So even if you took the 34 cloud fade, it went from 725s all the way to 691. Even from 700, it gave you $9 short. Look at my comments here, right? So Lilly was easy trade, you know, defined risk, high of the day or pre-market highs, shorted, hold it all day, under 700 psychological level, more fade, stress-free, long. All right, let's look at DOCU now, guys. So what was DOCU? The plan on DOCU in the pre-market was clear. The plan was the support pivot was 49, the resistance pivot was 53. But remember, there was also a psychological level that is 50, psychological level. I told everybody that I'm bearish to neutral, but if 50 holds, we can bounce, otherwise short the pops. And I was watching it, right? DOCU is a good play. A lot of people like to play it. So what was DOCU doing? DOCU showed me higher lows. B minus curl. That's what I told everybody. B minus curl. Watch the pullbacks for long scalp. It's B minus. But 50 psychological is your risk. And look what it did. So I told everybody at the 10 a.m. and what it did. Pushed, pulled back, held 512s, pushed, pulled back, held, and reclaimed 512s. And this scenario, you have to risk this 50 because 50 is a big psychological level, right? And even if you trying to exit on the smaller candles, you get back, you know, you reduce size. And then DOCU the B minus curl setup worked flawlessly, right? Wherever you added, let's say you added 50, 60, you risk 60 cents. By end of the day, you made $1.50. You risked one, you made 1.5. So that's how you trade. That's how you do these setups, right? So I was not blindly shorting DOCU, you know, because it was making higher lows. It was not giving a signal to me to short. It was showing me a strength. That's so I would not short it. I would have to see something to tell me it's short, you know, but we are ready for either ways, but that's our game plan. Let's quickly look at some of other plays. I didn't play them, but let's look at CHOR 59.54. What did it do? Let's look at CHOR. Amateur moved down, held the clouds and a push. Nice setup. It was a cloud pullback setup, midday cloud pullback setup. That was the setup on CHOR. You know, decent one if somebody played it. And then NXPI, the 223, 226, and I was bearish if it breaks the cloud, short under the clouds. That's what the plan was. And what did NXPI did? It popped, rejected the clouds, and shorted, traded from 225 to 219. So that idea worked as well. Now let's look at the next idea. Was SYM. Only B curl if 40 holds, right? So only B minus curl if 40 holds. Under that is a short. And what did SYM do? Pulled back, broke under 40, and that was a short scalp back to low, pre-market lows, right? So easy setups, you know, you never long this if it's not holding the cloud. It already pushed over the cloud. I don't want to see this candle. This candle tells me it's bearish. It's a short. So these are 3 good examples, guys. Good examples and good movers there. I'm going to talk about some of these Chinese stocks. Let's talk about you know, LI first. You know, LI, all these Chinese names at open, I was either watching for gap and go, or I was watching for a gap fill. As soon as all the Chinese names opened up, let's look at them. So you are looking at LI. Let's look at PDD, big red candle at open. Let's look at FUTU, you know, big flush candle at open. Let's look at BIDU, you know, a big flush candle at open. So when such a big candle flushes, you know, it's you know, it's too much of extension. I cannot trade this. Yes, it was bouncing, you know, we were talking about the bounce and all that. You know, I was watching PDD if it stays heavy or not, but I cannot trade this action the way the Chinese names were doing. You know, it's way too under the clouds, and if I try to short them, it's gonna squeeze me right over. And you know, maybe because these candles don't give me a good setup. So I did not end up doing anything on these Chinese names because I didn't have a clear entry and risk reward. Although when like stock like Baba moved over 3450, there was a good long, but it was on our watch list regardless, guys. So here was our watch list: Baba, Baidu, PDD, FUTU. I gave it everybody neutral bias, and I said I will watch at open if they break out of the pivot or not. And you know, so but I didn't end up doing anything. I know a lot of people were long. They did really good. If I was long Baba, I would have longed it here. Anyways, guys, these were Chinese name. They always do that. We will keep eyes on Baba, big bullish candle. Maybe it shows us a continuation tomorrow, then we can long Baba again. But that was today's recap on all these Chinese names. All right, guys, let's look at quickly on SPY QQQ today. There's nothing much. I got chopped in this you know, range as well. I knew it's a chop. You know my chop rules. You know I teach them. You go. I also posted the link about it many times on my YouTube. So it was an inside day. Could never get over yesterday's highs. Could never get under today's lows. So it was a chop day. So you identify that. But QQQ did give us a short right at morning. I gave a QQQ short to everybody in the community, and I said stay short, and we were short with AMD, NVDA. So all of those were short. And you know, we traded nicely, faded, nice put play on this short, and then it broke this bear flag as well. You know, decent trades all day on QQQ. But SPY was choppy, right? And I told everyone there's a buyer here. You can see here 1 2 3 4. You know, this 492 big level. I don't know if it's a gamma level or what it was, but it was choppy all day. It did give a small setup in middle of the day for reversal, and it did reverse a little bit for scalps, but didn't do much after that. You know, you can see here you know, how it bounced there for that reversal. So we'll see what SPY does tomorrow. Today SPY trades where I lost a couple of choppy trades. I was trying to play the breakouts or breakdowns, but that's fine, it happens. And then QQQ, I made good money on the short side. And then we couldn't let's see, look at the daily chart on SPY. It's not doing much actually. Maybe tomorrow, it was inside day today, so maybe tomorrow it shows us what it wants to do, you know. So we will see if it come on. What's going on here? Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay, so there's a daily chart. You can see the daily chart here. You know, so the daily chart is, yeah, if we push over 495, we can push to 496, and then if 496, we go to 400. Looks bullish to me. Maybe they run it a little more, and until NVIDIA earnings, they probably push all the tech and the market. Anyways guys, that's was all for today. Hope you guys learned something again from today's video. If you guys want to trade with me, come join my community. There's a promo running right now. You should find it in the comments, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. If you have any questions, please free to ask me in comments, Twitter, and DM me anywhere. I'm always reachable. You can reach me on my free website, ripstereducation.com as well, anytime, or email our mods at the Tenet community. All right guys, take care. Bye bye. See you.